Salvador Alanis. I'm one of the co-founders of the Institute for Creative Exchange in Toronto. This week, we're going to have a good friend and an amazing photographer, Pía Elizondo. Pía lives in Paris, and she's been part of the art festival for a while. She's one of the photographers that we see almost every year. I mean, not this year because of the conditions of the pandemic, but regularly she's a regular at the festival, and her work has been exhibited all over the world. She had a very prominent position in the Mexican photography world, and with exhibitions in Centro de Imagen and in galleries, and her work is really powerful because she works with a lot of intense emotions, especially emotions about death. Is one of the latest works that she has been developing, and she will talk to us about this. Is this thing of the death, and also the idea of the vision of the world through the media, and also how to deal with our more personal and corporeal emotions like sexual relations and all of that. So we reach Pía Elizondo in Mexico City. She was visiting Mexico, and she's now trapped in Mexico City because of the pandemic. So we hope you like this conversation.
Pía, thank you for the thank you for accepting the invitation. And you're in Mexico. We were thinking that we were going to talk with you in Paris, and now you're in Mexico. Tell me, what are you doing in Mexico? Since when you're in Mexico? What happened?
Well, the thing is, I came to Mexico in November. I was just going to stay for a few months, 3 or 4, and then the pandemic caught me here, and so I'm stuck here. I'm stuck in a good way because I'm with family and I have a garden and it's nice, but I'm still stuck. And by the way, thanks for inviting me.
No, the contrary. And I guess that then you have now the chance to see what are the differences between living in Paris and living in Mexico, which there are a lot, no?
Well, it's been a while, and my life in Paris is very circumscribed to work. Really, I do only work. It's very difficult to make friends in France, and it's taken me a very long time to sort of be able to be in the photographic medium. So it's different. Here, it's you socialize more, you lose much more time eating, drinking, and talking with friends. In Paris, I live alone, and I am pretty alone, and it's just it's good for work. I do only work, so it's good.
One personal question, and tell me if you want to answer that or not. Why did you move to Paris? How?
Well, we moved a long time ago. Just the insecurity in Mexico. We had children that were teenage, and we sort of wanted them to have a more free adolescence. So and we were kind of stuck in Mexico, I think, or I was kind of stuck in Mexico. I'm half French, so I sort of had the opportunity to have papers to work in France. Our children were at the French Lycée in Mexico, so we thought it was probably a good idea to move.
It was like an easy transition.
And it was very hard in the beginning. It was really, really hard. It took us a long time to sort of get into the Parisian life of the professional life. But in the end, we both, my companion and I, did get into the Parisian life. But he didn't like it, so he came back to Mexico, and I stayed because for me, things were better. I had sort of more friends, perhaps, more of a professional life, more photographic connections. And France is a place for photography that is very intense. It's always moving. There's always things happening. It's a center for photography. So for me, it was the prospect of coming back to Mexico and going away from that was not easy. And so I've sort of lingered on in Paris. And
Yeah, because in France you have the Arles Festival, and which is the and you studied there.
Very important.
You studied in
I
art.
started going there in 2006 because I was selected for an outdoors exhibition in a thing parallel to the Rencontre de Arles, which is called Voix Off. And so they said, come down, we can't pay for your ticket or your hotel or anything, but you should come down and see, and it's going to be good for you. And so I went down, and since then I've been back every year since then, except for 2012, I think I wasn't there, and this year it got canceled, so I won't be there. And it would have been difficult anyways, because here in Mexico we're still in confinement, so it would have been difficult. But Arles is a very good place because you sort of arrange your whole year there. There's so many people, you make so many contacts, you meet so many people. So many people see your work because there's a lot of opportunities to show your work somehow, either in portfolio reviews or just, with the friends you've made that year, you show your work and someone has heard about you, and it's a very, very small place, and you cross everybody, and it's sort of, it's very mixed up, and so you make contacts. And it's sort of the place where contacts are made for the rest of the year. So it's really, for me, it's been very, very good. And somehow I've seen myself go from, the first year I went there, I had my portfolio under my arm. And at 40, I was showing and after a long career in Mexico, I was showing my portfolio with people that had, students, 20-year-olds that were just coming out of school and were showing their portfolios for the first time, and I sort of had to restart all over again and make all my way up. And now it's good. I'm there. I'm in the photographic world in Paris and in France, and people know me, and I have good connections, and it's been good in a way. Yeah. Paris is a very hard city, but it also has its really good sides in that way. If you can make it even a little bit professionally in a place like Paris, in the photographic medium, it's good.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You somehow feel you have achieved something, because it's so hard to get there. It's so hard to be noticed. There are so many photographers, and Arles, there are so many photographers from all around. Everybody's there, so it's good. It's been a great satisfaction to be recognized there.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Apart from here,
yeah,
which I already was when I left.
Yeah, because I remember. I mean, it was like many years ago. The first time that I started discovering your work and seeing your photographs, I really loved your work, and I remember that I knew a lot of your work, and then I saw a couple of pieces that you had in the Mexico Bienal in the Centro de la Imagen, and also with this thing of the television, of the photos which were really beautiful. And then I saw some of your work in PhotoFest, which is also a very big and important festival, and you were part of this section of the exhibition that was curated by Osvaldo Sanchez, no? I was with Jimena and said, I really like Pia's work, and then Jimena and you had the exhibition together. I said, well, this is really good. I mean, it's I love your work. How did you, because one of the things that we were talking before we started this conversation is that you have a very strong, if you were a writer, I would say you would have a very strong voice, but in terms of photography, you have a very strong presence. And when you see one of your photographs, you really find that it's your work. So how did you get there? What more or less, what was your exploration in general?
I think like all beginning photographers, you look for your eye, your inner eye somehow. And I was on this search, and at one point in my life, I came across a camera, a special camera, square format, but still 35 millimeters, with very particular lenses, and a kind of mechanical motor that allowed you to, go for it. And somehow there with that camera, I discovered my eye, what I was pursuing, what I was trying to find, and there it was. And somehow I stuck to that camera for a long time, but then I've been changing cameras and still finding the same kind of I think battle between light and dark, and there's this there are themes, I think, that come back in my images that are very present, like death and somehow desire, and sex, I think, is very present in various forms, animals. There are themes that come back that seem to be obsessions, ancestral obsessions almost. So I think the way these come back and come back and come back sort of make up for not only thematic obsessions, but also light and dark obsessions, and the way I treat the image, and where I look for images, the TV, as you mentioned, and I've done that over and over again with different works. And so where you put your obsessions at different levels somehow, if you're consistent with yourself, I think, and if you work really with this inner eye and not with the eye people are expecting you to have, or the trend is expecting you to have, but your real inner eye, this is what comes out. I mean, there's no one else taking those pictures with me. So inevitably, there's me appearing all the time.
Yeah, which is...
In a way, this is. I think photography has a way of, even if it's not a self-portrait, it is a self-portrait. Photography, if it's done honestly, I think it's very showing of what you are inside as an individual, and which are your obsessions, and what are your knots, and where is it that you're stuck, and where you are advancing. And it's very like we say in Mexico, es muy balcona la fotografía. I don't know how you say that.
No, that you show everything you have inside of you, no? It's like a revealing.
Somehow it's inevitable that in the image, what you are is there. It's just inevitable, I think.
Yes. And one thing that is interesting is that this idea, are you still working in black and white, or what is there something?
I'm still working in black and white. I sometimes do little things in color, but no, my main thing is still black and white.
Yeah, because it keeps. You can feel that a lot of your personality shows in like these things of the dark parts of the image, and how the different shapes start to unveil in the photo, which is what I saw in those photos of the television, that it was like something was revealing from something that is so common and so everyday, watching TV, and the discovery of the images were like really surprising, and no, it was like appealing, no? And
This is something with the TV. This is something that I've come back to. I mean, over my whole career, I've done it 3 times. One was for that TV work you saw at the Biennale. Another one was quite a few years ago now, probably 6 or 7 years ago, or 5. I did a work on porn, and it was all images from TV. And then one of the last things I did was a work on the fall of Aleppo in Syria.
okay.
This was in 2016, at the end of 2016 probably, or beginnings of 2017.
Yes.
And I did I don't think you've seen that. It's a book, not very many pages, but still, it's very long, and when you open it, it becomes a square. And so I worked a lot with the iPhone, taking screenshots of all these documents that were on YouTube and everywhere on the media when the fall of Aleppo, and I did a work on that it did pretty well, and I've had very good criticisms and texts written about it, and I think it was a pretty strong work, and it was a project I did in the image taking was done in very few days. It was the editing that took me longer, but it came about pretty round, and I'm pretty happy about it. And this is a return to the TV again, because somehow it's the TV for me works as somehow as a window. It's a window into another world, which is not our world. And then this Aleppo series, it was very interesting because it was the superimposition of various screens, one after the other. The soldier that is in the battle and is drawing you in with this GoPro camera attached to the rifle or to the helmet or whatever, and so they draw you into the battle. It's a very subjective point of view, but then there's the screen of the reproduction of that video, and then your own screen, and then the iPhone screen, and it's
it's like layers and layers.
These layers that somehow, in fact, completely take you away from the fact itself. So in a way, it was somehow, in the end, it was somehow a very emotional response to what I was seeing. But, through all these screens and layers and layers of information that finally take you so far away from the event itself.
Yeah.
It's very contradictory, and there's a paradox there.
No, that's super interesting, because it's just like you're detached from the event, and you have all these layers, and at the same time you're like moved because you're seeing something which is really shocking, but you're like detached. No, it's super interesting. It's like an interesting reflection.
It's like an emotional response to this detachment that is somehow imposed upon you. It's very strange. It was an interesting work. That was one of the last things I published as a book.
And now, what are you working on now? Now in lately, what were your like your latest works?
Well, I've been in confinement for the last 3 months, so I've been taking photographs of my dogs and my family, but that's not really a project for me. The last thing I did as a project is a project about mourning and death. It's something I did right after my mother passed away. She passed away in December 2017, and I came back to Paris fairly soon after the event. And I started working on these images I had, which are also a kind of, it's similar to what I do with my work with TV, because it's projections of my own photographs. I project them, and I with a 4x5 camera, I choose a very, very small part of this image. And so I end up with sort of fragments of my own images in a 4x5. And I had all these images that were sort of untied together, but that had this unity of form and mood, and as an exercise, I started putting them together, but since they didn't really link together, the exercise was I threw them on the table. There were about, I don't know, perhaps 12 of them, something like that. I threw them on the table, and I threw on top of them a little paper with whatever first came into my mind, seeing that image. And I wrote it down. It all came out in English. I don't know why. And I wrote it in English, and I then edited it as a book, but not by constructing from the images, but by constructing the text with these sort of sentences, very free sentences that I had thrown upon the images, and I built a sort of poem with these sentences, and this is how I built the book. This is the order of editing of the book, and somehow what came out was a poem about death and mourning. And so I just left it like that and kept it. And this work has a very particular story, a little macabre story, because I was, at the same time, I was starting to curate an exhibition, a very big sort of mid-career retrospective exhibition with the Mexican curator Javier Ramirez Limon. Uh-huh. And I was starting to work on this very big project with him, and he died. He just dropped dead in the streets of Paris in front of all of us, and he died, and he just left me sort of floating with this big project. And so when I came back to Mexico after Javier's death, Patricia Mendoza, she saw me so sad and so lost with all this work of mine that she offered to help me curate this exhibition that was already programmed and etc. So I accepted, and we worked together for a few months, for quite a few months. We spent a week in Paris together. She lived with me at home, and we worked for quite a few months together. until March, when the confinement in Mexico was declared. And it was a very hard process. I couldn't manage with all this material. And in the end, I ended up, as I went through all my work and trying to decide what to show, what not to show, how to show it, etc., I ended up somehow landing on this work about death that I had already made as a little hand-sewn book, etc., which is called Death is a Bride. And I said to Patricia, this is what I want to exhibit. And she said, it's perfect. You've done all this very long and sort of wavy road through your work to end up in this. It's great. It's perfect. And so I decided to show this work on mourning and death. And she died a few days later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So both my curators on sort of this process are both dead now, and somehow it just left me sort of, the exhibition was suspended because of the COVID. It was going to take place in Spain during Foto España, so it was suspended, it was canceled. And so I'm sort of, this was my last finished round project. And then the confinement started, and so I was left sort of floating in between things and mourning again Patricia's death, and you know, having lived through all this process with her, to end up with deciding that this was the work I had to show. It, you know, it just came about in so strange ways and so intense meaning of everything, that I sort of dropped it, you know, for a while. The exhibition is still going to take place, I think, next year. But for now, you know, this was also an exhibition that was going to be picked up by the gallery of Agence Vue in Paris. So it's probably still going to be picked up, I suppose, for next year. But this was my last project.
Wow, this is like a
finished one. You know, the book, the exhibition, everything was already closed.
Yeah, sounds like a.
So now I'm just trying to understand what all this means, because it seems there are so many signs in this process that I'm still trying to figure it out somehow.
No, definitely. I mean, it sounds like, because you told me a bit of the story, but I didn't know the whole story. Like pretty strong, no? It's like it's very strong, no? And I understand. I mean, you need
it's like a whole circle, very bizarre and macabre circle somehow, that began with the death of my mother and somehow ended with the death of Patricia Mendoza, who somehow was my photographic mother, because she was the first one who allowed me to exhibit. She invited me at the beginning of the Centro de la Imagen. Somehow she nurtured my career like a mother, almost, and she was to a lot of us in my generation. She was like a mother, a photographic mother. And so it seems quite strange that this cycle began with the death of my mother and ended with the death of my photographic mother. So it was kind of it was a hard blow. I'm still trying to figure it out somehow.
I understand. And
I have ideas, but I don't have much infrastructure to work with me where I am confined now. So I'm just, my head is rolling, but still nothing concrete happening.
No, it's good. Yeah, very good, Pia. And it's Well, now it's great to have you and to have your photos in with ICE, and we're very honored. Honestly, I mean, I feel like
honored to be with ICE and to have my photographs with you. So thank you very much for inviting me.
no, on the contrary, thank you. And
I'm so glad to see you both. It's been such a long time.
it's been a while, eh? No, but it's always great, Pia. And I hope we meet in person very soon. So.
Well, I really hope that you enjoy this conversation, and if you like this work and you want to know more, and if you want to acquire some of these pieces, we have special editions of any of the pieces of these artists at the ICE photography shop. This is the address, icestore.me, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at exchange@iceamericas.org. And soon we're going to have also a collaboration workshop, so stay tuned and hope to see you soon.